Fique bangga. Hello, everyone. You are welcome to the webinar. This is the LDI Africa Informational Webinar for the 2015 Emerging Institutions Fellowship Program. My name is Benga Ogunjimi, and I am the founder and CEO of LDI Africa. I do have my colleague here with me.
Hello, my name is Jessie. I'm a new program manager at LDI Africa.
So I just want to give a brief overview. The purpose of this informational webinar is to give everyone an introduction into LDI Africa's work as well as the fellowship program. Also highlight the amazing work our several host organizations are doing on the continent, particularly the work of Acre Fund. At this point, I'll be switching the presentation to PowerPoint, so please bear with me for 1 moment. It takes a little bit of seconds for the presentation to come up. Let's bear 1 second. Great. So about LDI Africa. As it gets started, I just want to talk a little bit about the organization LDI Africa, and also we'll talk about the fellowship program. But I would like to start on this premise. And the premise I would like to start is that ideas and talents are evenly distributed around the world, but opportunities are not. I had the opportunity to participate in the U.S. State Department funded program a few years ago. While serving here in Washington, D.C., I was inspired by the amazing work the U.S. Peace Corps volunteers are doing on the continent of Africa. Also, in several African countries like Nigeria, they do also have domestic volunteer service program that also are doing amazing work. While this is fantastic, I thought there was an opportunity to create a complementary program that directly helps to amplify the impact of local organizations on the continent, and also helps secure a place for this organization in the global marketplace. I also thought that there is a need to increase the diversity of international volunteer program participation. I also thought of recreating the opportunity I had received to several leaders around the world. As a result of this vision, LDI Africa came into existence. And since we started, we have engaged fellows in several organizations on the continent, like Wetana Investments in Mozambique, Joseph Initiative in Uganda, Start of Your Life in Morocco, and Junior in Nigeria. We have also expanded the program to the US by providing opportunities for African entrepreneurs to come to the United States and expand their business and also collaborate with their US counterparts. That is about the motivation and kind of the big picture of LDI Africa. About the fellowship program. The Emerging Institutions Fellowship Program is an international pro bono consulting program that provides hands-on volunteer service opportunity for rising young business and development leaders from around the world at Africa's best for-profit and non-profit organizations. It is a year-long program. It is designed to match the financial capital invested in emerging African businesses with the necessary human capital to take these businesses to scale. We engage leaders that are seeking opportunities in emerging markets, particularly in Africa. Successful candidates that are being accepted to the program are provided monthly stipend that is sufficient for mothers living in any African country. In addition to the financial contribution that they, or compensation that they receive, they are also provided housing, local transportation, international travel assistance, medical insurance, and ongoing professional opportunities throughout the fellowship year. So this is the way it works. Organization engage the services of the fellow in a volunteer or pro bono capacity. However, fellows are working full-time at the host organization. And usually the host organization provides an opportunity that complements the fellow professional skills. At the end of the program, the fellow can choose to remain on the continent or return back to their country of residence. Our preference is that the fellow will utilize this program to develop a career on the continent. Fellow may also be accepted into the program for paid consulting or employment opportunities. Right now, I will be turning it over to One Acre Fund, and I will have Jamie and Daniel of One Acre Fund talk more about the incredible work the organization is doing on the continent and opportunities for getting involved. And as I turn it to them, I just also want to say on a personal note that congratulations to One Acre Fund for being recently rated as one of the best nonprofits in the world. And we're very excited to collaborate and partner together on the amazing work you're doing. So right about now, just bear with me. I'm going to turn it over to One Acre Fund.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Benga. We wanted to introduce ourselves very quickly. I am Jenny Taylor Calhoun, and I am the Director of Global Recruitment here at One Acre Fund. And this is my colleague, Dania.
Hi guys, I'm Dania Sherbini. I'm a People Operations Associate Recruiter here in the New York office.
Okay. And what we'd like to do right now is actually share the presentation as well. So give us just a moment as we get it up on the screen. Okay. Benga, is our presentation shared? Can you see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Great. So thanks again for letting us share some information about our organization today. We're really excited to be working with LDI and all of the really talented individuals who receive fellowships from the programs. So One Acre Fund is a social enterprise that's based in East Africa. We serve smallholder farmers to empower themselves to grow themselves out of poverty. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain our background as an organization, our model, and then my colleague Dania is going to tell you a little bit more about the type of staff member that we're looking for and how LDI placements could work for One Acre Fund. So let me just start by giving you some background on when and why we were founded. So in 2006, Andrew Yoon, our founder, was traveling through Kenya, and he observed that in the rural areas, there was great disparities between the harvests of neighbors that he was meeting. So one family that he would meet would be completely food secure and prosperous, while their neighbor, who faced all of the same agroecological conditions, would be struggling just to feed their family. And it seemed odd to him, so he started doing a little bit of research into why that was happening. And what he found when he started digging into the problem was that it's not confined to just rural Kenya, but 70% of the world's poor are farmers. And the biggest constraints they have to improving their own harvests, and then thus their economic livelihood, is the access to capital to get improved inputs and tools and techniques. So if one family had access to these simple things, such as capital from a son or a daughter that might be working in the capital city and sending home a bit of money, then that family could potentially access improved inputs and then have improved harvests while their neighbor wasn't able to access the same opportunities. So Andrew and the 1 Acre Fund began devising a model that would address these constraints. So 1 Acre Fund provides smallholder farmers with exactly the resources they need as part of the model. So we provide inputs on credit, we deliver them directly to the farmer's doorstep, we train them, and then we help them to optimize the sale of their harvests. So all of these services are provided together in one service bundle. And without credit, seed and fertilizer are unaffordable to the families that we serve. And without training, the farmers don't use the resources properly. And then without delivery, the services might as well be on the moon for some of the very rural and infrastructure poor places that we're serving. So a little bit more detail about each of the steps in the model. In terms of financing, we offer financing in the form of high-quality seeds and fertilizers on a credit cycle that matches the harvest cycle. So farmers will pay little by little throughout the year until their full loan is due around the time of harvest. So this financing scheme allows farmers to pay at a pace that works for them since their household income flows are not steady. We distribute the inputs to within 2 kilometers of a farmer's home. So in the areas that we're typically working throughout East Africa, there's extremely poor infrastructure, and it's very difficult for farmers to access the inputs even if they have the money to do so. So by delivering the inputs to within a walking distance of their home, we're providing this critical piece so that they can actually utilize inputs that they want to access. Training is also a crucial component to the model, and our farmers will attend weekly meetings with their field officers so that they're trained on the best practices on how to utilize these improved inputs to get the optimal harvest. So they have a very close relationship with one 1 Acre Fund staff member to ensure that they're using everything that they're buying to the fullest potential. And finally, with the improved harvests that our farmers see, we train them on proper storage techniques and provide them the information of when market prices are at the highest. So it allows our farmers to take advantage of both the increased harvest amounts and higher selling prices to optimize their profits. And the model that we've been using over the past 9 years has a proven impact. So we've rigorously measured our impact to see that 50 to 100% increased profit on each acre planted with 1 Acre Fund. And this 50 to 100% varies because it's across country and crop and time. But what we really see is with this 4-part model, what we offer to farmers is a change in their livelihoods. So they have increased harvest, increased income, and they really are growing themselves out of the hunger season. They're becoming food secure, and they're increasing their income as a result. So that's kind of the background and our model, and now I'm going to turn it over to Dania to tell you a little bit more about working with 1 Acre Fund.
Great. Great. So like Jenny said, we're going to talk a little bit about working with 1 Acre Fund and what we look for in candidates. So there are a number of qualities and skills that we're looking for in a potential candidate. Starting with the qualities that we're looking for, one of the biggest things is that we're seeking individuals with a proven and long-term interest or commitment to the development field. So ideally, you have demonstrated interest in international development and have lived in a developing nation for some time. Candidates should also have practical leadership experience. So leadership is a trait that we focus on quite heavily within 1 Acre Fund. So perhaps you've led an initiative at your company, developed and mentored team members, or have project management experience. Language is also a huge asset for any candidate. So fluent French, Swahili, Amharic, or local languages in the countries that we operate in is very desirable. Candidates should also have a strong academic background. So you've proven yourself in school with a strong academic record, extracurricular activities, etc. And another quality is just that candidates are adaptable and humble. So many of our positions are located in rural areas very far from support. So being able to adapt to any challenges that come your way is something that's very important. And in terms of skills that we're looking for, there are three main categories: quantitative, people skills, and project skills. So in terms of quantitative skills, things like data analysis, focus on impact measurement are very valuable. In terms of people skills, we're looking for leadership experience, like I mentioned, people management, interpersonal skills, relationship development, and strong written and oral communication. And then finally, in terms of project skills, project management, organization, time management, and research skills. So those three main categories just give you a broad idea of the type of skills that we're looking for. And now, to give you a better sense of how you'd use these skills at One Acre Fund, we want to highlight an example of a One Acre Fund project. And this is only one example. One Acre Fund has a variety of teams working on very different things, from finance to policy to field operations. So there are many different potential projects you could be working on if you joined the One Acre Fund team. But this project focuses on crop diversification. And the problem it's addressing is that most One Acre Fund farmers primarily plant maize, but their maize is at risk due to increased rates of maize disease, which in turn puts their entire food security at risk. So for this project, it was split into three main phases: research, plan, and execute, which I'll go into a little bit more detail about now. So for the first phase, the research phase, the program associate worked on this project, the program associate working on this project researched 12 other potential crops that we could offer to our farmers. And then they narrowed down that list to 6 crops for testing. And these crops were chosen based on factors like farmer preference, ease of growth, nutrition, and yields, among other factors. The PA working on the project then worked with other staff members and farmers to better understand preference and further narrow down that list to the crops that would undergo nursery trials. And the nursery trials were then designed to compare different seed types, planting techniques, and fertilizers in order to decide which crops we would roll out. And what we were looking for in those nursery trials was really which crop package would give the maximum benefit to our farmers, and making sure that the impact that this potential package could have was at the forefront of the project. So as you can see, this initial phase required research skills, interpersonal skills, critical thinking, as well as sound research methodology. So for the second part of the phase, the planning phase, with the results of the nursery trial analyzed, the program associate looked at the financial and logistical implications for each crop in order to determine which crops would be included in the final loan product, and also determine what price we would offer these products to farmers. And they then moved in to procure the necessary materials like seed and fertilizer for each crop. And finally, the program associate worked with One Acre Fund field staff to create simple trainings for farmers regarding these new crops. And the goal of these trainings was to ensure that the new crops were easy to plant and manage during the growing season. So for this second planning phase, skills that go into it included financial modeling, logistics and organizational skills, as well as project management and communication. And again, it's important to note that the ability to analyze impact and determine if a product is financially beneficial for farmers as well as for One Acre Fund as an organization is really key here. So finally, we reach the execution phase. The program associate created simple visual marketing materials to get farmers really excited about the new crop diversity package. And then field staff were trained, materials were delivered, and the new crops were planted by all farmers in Kenya in the 2013 season. And then with regards to monitoring and evaluation and impact measurement, the program associate designed, implemented, and analyzed both test and control groups with this new crop package in order to determine the true financial and food security impact for our farmers. So as you can see from the breakdown of these 3 phases of this project, a project like this requires a really robust set of skills. So you're not just performing one job function or doing the same thing every day, but rather you're developing and utilizing a really diverse skill set. And again, this is just one example of a project, potential project that you could work on if you worked with One Acre Fund. So now we want to move into how to prepare for the application and interview process. So there are a few things that we recommend as tactics and strategies when you're preparing if you do decide to apply to a position with One Acre Fund. And first, we recommend that you browse all our open positions on our website. We currently have between 30 and 40 available postings, and identify 1 or 2 that you're most interested in. Some examples of roles at the associate level that you may want to look into include program associate, fertilizer supply chain associate, mobile tech projects associate, as well as policy innovation officer. We encourage you to look at the JDs for these roles, as well as all the roles that are on our website. We really do have a variety with many different teams and a lot of different job functions. We also recommend that you research One Acre Fund and really think about why you would want to work here and what sets us apart from other organizations. And have a tailored cover letter that really highlights that. Another recommendation is to brainstorm past projects or experiences from your own academic and professional life that you think would be relevant to One Acre Fund and that highlight your skills, especially the skills that we went over today. And be able to provide examples of these experiences. This will be especially helpful if you do make it to a first-round interview, the ability to communicate your past experiences and apply them to future work with One Acre Fund. More broadly, we recommend that you identify your strengths and what you would bring to the One Acre Fund team. And again, just be able to really clearly communicate that in your application materials and throughout the interview process. And finally, we'd also recommend that you brainstorm questions that you may have about the organization or about a particular position. And make sure to ask these questions if you do make it to a first-round interview. So you can make sure that any questions that you have are consistently answered throughout the process. So those are just some tactics that we recommend so that you can make your application really stand out, make it as strong as it can be once you do apply to once you do decide to apply to One Acre Fund. So thank you so much for listening today. We'll turn it back to Benga now, but we'll stay on the line to answer any questions later on.
Thank you, Janie and Benya, for that presentation. Again, I just also want to mention that we would be taking questions. So if you want to start thinking about your question, please feel free to utilize the Q&A function. It should be on your right corner on the screen, and you can start chatting in your question or just try to get your questions ready to when we start. So right about now, I would be turning the presentation over to Jessie to continue, and she will be speaking more broadly about eligibility requirements, application process, and some useful tips to consider.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Benga, and thank you, One Acre Fund, for all the information that you've provided. For those who just joined in, I'm Jessie, the new program manager at LDI Africa, and I would like to tell you more about the fellowship process and a few tips that will help you throughout your application. So first, we are going to turn on the PowerPoint. And we would like to go through who exactly we are looking for, what is the profile of an LDI fellow. So we are looking for individuals from all over the world. Usually because our name is LDI Africa, a lot ask if the citizenship in a particular African country or a particular place is a requirement. And the answer is no. We welcome applications and applicants from any part of the world, even when they're not from the continent. So we encourage you to send in your applications. We also have an educational requirement. We seek people who have a minimum of a bachelor degree, and also mid-level professionals with interest or familiarity with emerging markets, especially the Africa region. I would like to note, please note that the years of experience are up to 10 years, so if you have less than that, you can still apply. Also, one of our goals is to help diffuse the brain drain that we can see going on the continent and preserve local talent. So we encourage and are interested in people who wish to have a career in Africa. This is not a requirement, but it is just a preference. A good command of the English language is also very important in applying for the LDI fellowship. So a few dates that we encourage you to remember are the open and closing dates of our applications. We will be opening our applications April 1st, 2015, and they will be closing on May 31st, 2015. In between, LDI Africa holds various events, informational events in Washington, D.C. And so we'll be having our Africa Talent Series on April 22nd. For those who are in Washington, D.C., we encourage you to check our announcements on the website and feel free to take part in this. This year, we are going to be featuring our two past fellows, African American fellows who went on to the continent, and will be sharing their experiences on business collaboration between the African American communities and the African continent. Also, another important date is September 1st, where the fellows begin work at their host organizations on the ground in the countries. These dates can be flexible. You can start a bit earlier or a bit later, but there will be an agreement with the host organization. So a few tips for your application. First, with the cover letter. When you're applying to the LDI Africa Fellowship, you are not applying to serve at one specific organization, but rather you are applying for an opportunity to be placed at one of our partner organizations. So we ask you not to be too specific when writing that letter, but to write to the fellowship program. So as an example, instead of stating the letter to One Acre Fund, for example, we'll ask you to state the letter to the fellowship program. Also, for the resume, we know that you will be applying from various countries with different formats, so we are not restricting the format that you should apply to, but we prefer you to keep a maximum of 2 pages in your resume, and this will help us in evaluating your application. Third, we'll be talking about your essays. So when you go to the application page on the LDI Africa website, which is www.ldiafrica.org, on the corner right, you will see application essays, and this is what should be filled out and sent to us. The first point that you should really pay attention to is the biography. It's very important because this is the first thing that we see, and that tells us more about you. So we encourage you to go to LDI Africa website to see more about the instructions of bios from past fellows. So when you go to the website, you click on fellowships and then 2014 fellows, and you'll be able to see what their biographies looks like, and then it will inspire yours as well. For the interviews, we encourage you, as One Acre Fund stated, to be clear on what contributions you can make to the program. We know that a lot will be applying for a learning experience, but we'd like you to also show your contributions, your practical skills that you'll be making at the disposal of LDI Africa or the host organization as well. And this will help you have a good interview. When you get selected to the selection board, which is the second stage, we'll then ask you for the letters of recommendations. So on the essay application, you will see that we'll be asking you for the contact information of 2 references. So once you are selected to the next stage, that's when we'll require the recommendation letter. And before the interviews, we'll be supplying with tips and various advice that will help you throughout. So please be sure to completely fill out the application forms and submit a completed application with all the required documentations. Visit our website, which is www.ldiafrica.org, and please make sure to send your questions in the Q&A box. And thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that presentation. So right now I'm going to turn it over to video, and we can start taking questions. Great. So the questions are now coming in. And the first question is there a list of host organization that is publicly available? So in terms of the questions from the LDI Africa side, I'll be taking most of the questions. As Jessie mentioned, she recently joined us a few weeks ago, and she's still in the process. But I'll be taking most of the questions. And specifically to One Acre Fund, then I will be. So I'll try to take as much possible questions for LDI at this session, and then I'll switch it over to One Acre Fund for them to actually take questions as well. Is there a list? So as Jessie mentioned, when you apply to the fellowship, you're not applying to one specific organization. So you're applying for the opportunity to be placed at one of our several partner organizations. So if you go to the website, there is a program brochure, and that brochure does have some of the host organizations that will be participating. The list is constantly being updated, so there is not a standard list. But you would have a preview into some of the organizations that would be hiring. The second question is, can you clarify how an LD Africa Fellow will be integrated into organizations such as One Acre Fund? And thanks for that great question. So the process, as we mentioned, is there are rounds of screening processes. So once you apply, there's the first round, which is everybody apply. Those who are successful to the second round will go through a screening exercise with our selection board, and they would give us recommendation if they should proceed in the application process. Those who are successful, the LDI Africa team working on the recommendation from our selection board will now decide organization that has that is a match in the list of the organizations we are working with. At that point, we'll make a recommendation to organizations such as One Acre Fund. And at that point forward, it is ultimately a decision of One Acre Fund to either choose the fellow or get back to us so we can consider them for other opportunities if they are not chosen. At that point, we do tell the candidates that at this point, we think that you'll be a great candidate, but it's now in the hands of our host organization to make you a fellow. The third question is it restricted to particular countries? The answer is no. The program is open to professionals around the world. A lot of people because we are LDI Africa, think that is only African citizenship of any country is not required, and we accept application even those who are in the continent and outside of the continent. Okay. How many fellows in total would be selected for the fellowship program? We do not have a cap for the fellowship. It is strictly based on the opportunities that we have. As I explained the process, organizations, will select candidates to organizations, and then they would choose the fellow that would serve. But averagely, what we see, we usually would shortlist in the first round about 50 candidates, and for the semi-finalists, and then about 20 fellows will make it in each of the cohort. Our goal is to be able to increase this number to 50 cohort candidates or fellows in each cohort. Other question is it recommended to select a country placement preference if you have existing ties to that place and want to stay there after the fellowship ends? That is a great question. You definitely can state your preference for a particular country, and we would factor that into consideration. We might not strictly work on that preference, but we'll definitely consider that. As we said, it's an opportunity, and we ask for flexibility. Also, as One Acre Fund also stated, several organizations also ask for flexibility. And I just want to elaborate on this a little bit. So this is the way we work as an organization. So we have designed the program as a technical assistance program to primarily investment funds. There could be impact investing, there could be venture capital, there could be foundations that are providing some form of financial capital to local businesses on the continent. So while we might be able to partner with One Acre Fund in New York, it's at the discretion of One Acre Fund to tell us if there is a need in Rwanda, or there's a need in Ethiopia, or there's a need in Kenya. So we might not be able to forecast these opportunities ahead. So this is how the program works. So in the case where a fellow states or candidate states their preference, we'll definitely factor that into consideration. Put more questions out. So yeah, does LDI Africa Fellowship keeps the fellow alumni community engaged and connected? The answer is yes. We are a small program, and we are doing our best to engage our alumni network. We are also partnering with other service programs on the continent, like the President Young Leaders African, the YALI program, for example. They do have regional hubs that we try to connect our fellows into. But this is very, just quick disclaimer, on a very informal capacity, not any formal partnership with them. And there are also several partner organizations on the continent that are doing similar work that we try to integrate our fellows into. So before a fellow goes to a country, we will connect them to fellows currently serving, or those who have served, to also provide some kind of insight and continue to work with them. So the answer to that question is yes. Can you further expound on the details regarding the benefits and logistics for the fellowship, paid positions, and the typical pay structure for a fellow? Wow. Housing and travel, what types of accommodation, wow, usually provided to the fellows? Quite a question. So in terms of the benefits, we do provide monthly stipend, average of $1,500. Sometimes it's usually more below that. It could be $1,200, or as they say, $1,200, to the country that they're going. So we look at the standard of living in that country. But average, the very least fellow would receive a stipend of $1,200, $1,200 on a monthly basis. The housing provided are furnished already, and also it comes with utilities, so it's not going outside of that stipend. The stipend is primarily for them to cover the basics that they may incur in the cost of everyday living in the country. They are also provided local transportation. Some of them, most cases, they are provided with companies shuttle transportation. Some companies provide cars and personal drivers. And in some cities that have public transportation accessible, they can also utilize that. But in most cases, fellow will be provided local transportation. In terms of trainings, we also connect fellows to ongoing professional opportunities, and we'll coordinate with the host organization if in some instances the fellow has the need to have additional trainings for them to really optimize their impact in that organization. So a case in point, one of our fellows was working in South Africa, and she has primarily sustainability experience, but she was working with an investment fund, and they were doing a lot of VC venture capital kind of work. She was sponsored to a training of the South African Venture Capital Association trainings for her to be able to, do the best for that. So that would happen. We would also engage fellows with thought leadership series that we do. We'll try to get successful entrepreneurs come talk to the fellows, leaders in the space in various fields. One of the recent trainings that we had, and you might also find the video on YouTube. It's about Return Peace Corps fellow, Return Peace Corps volunteer, an American here in West Africa, and founded a social enterprise by the name of Kuli Kuli Foods, which is like a snack bar in Africa made out of moringa products. And so she shared experience going to serve on the continent and actually creating a business out of that opportunity. So, so trainings like that often would come. I can take a few more questions before we turn it over to One Acre Fund. Since the fellowship period can be as short as 3 months or as long as 18 months, how do fellows usually work at their host organization? So just to clarify, it's a minimum. Usually we might have exceptions that fellow might do short-term placement like 6 months, but usually it's a year-long service. And I believe organizations like One Acre Fund might actually require more than that for a minimum commitment, and they might elaborate on that. So please, Jenny, please feel free to note that in the question of the minimum requirement for service or for work at One Acre Fund. So how do they do the work? As I said, there might be, so the legal status of a fellow is a volunteer. However, they are held to the expectations of the full-time staff members. So they're working full-time, like employees, 9 to 5, more hours, 40 hours, 50 hours, even more. So in the program, so there is no kind of different set of arrangement for a fellow. They are part of that local staff and team. But the minimum requirement we ask is 12 months. And so in cases like that, I just want to also touch on this. We have seen cases that organizations and fellows, during the conversation for the interview stage, actually upgrades fellow to a consultant or employment opportunity role. This is a very new model for us, and we're still testing this out. So I just also want you to be open about this. So the way this is going to work, as we envision, is that organizations can actually utilize our program as a staffing option. But there's going to be some kind of resonance with the values, professional goals, and all of that fellow and the host organization. There would still be an LDI Africa fellow. What that means is that we'll create for them service opportunities in the community. They might have to mentor or do some kind of technical pro bono consulting while serving. There is the communication requirement. They will be completing monthly blogs, assignments, speaking in events, and responsibilities like that. However, to their host organization, they are staff members. So we'll be elaborating on this opportunity as we go. I'll take one more question and I will turn it over to One Acre Fund. Are you specifically looking to fill finance business job openings, or are they positions for engineers and other technical positions? That is a fantastic question. We encourage professionals of all backgrounds to apply. So there are opportunities in nonprofit and for-profit. Sometimes we also have very stellar candidates and their application, and because of that application, we'll do targeted recruitment just for such candidates. So they do not require MBA or business management experience exclusively. In as much we encourage and we value those, the program is open to professionals of all backgrounds. Okay, so about this time, I will turn it to One Acre Fund. And One Acre Fund, part of the questions that we can get ready to answer in terms of what is the duration of the minimum duration of service working with One Acre Fund. In one minute, we'll put it over to them.
Yeah, so in terms of the duration, most of our positions do require a 2-year commitment, so it seems to be a little bit longer than the minimum for the LDI fellowship, but that is on a position-to-position basis, so there are other cases where it may be a shorter commitment, but overall it's 2 years.
And can you talk about the locations where you have opportunities right now in terms of specific countries? You mentioned East Africa. Can you elaborate on those?
Yeah, so our core countries are Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Burundi. And then we also have pilot countries in Ethiopia, Malawi, and Uganda. So we have positions in all those countries. And you know, if you just take a look at our website and see all the various openings that we have, some of them are specific to a certain country, and then others, such as program associate, have available positions in all of our countries. So it really depends on the position, but we do have opportunities in all those countries in East Africa.
And to follow on with what Dania said, most of our positions are rural-based, and when we say that, it's like a medium-sized city in the rural areas of the country. But we also have some capital city-based positions in Nairobi, Kigali, Addis, etc. So as Daniel was saying, it really is position-based, and so on the job descriptions, that's where you can find the most up-to-date information about the exact placement location of each position.
We do have a question on entry level versus mid level. Can you kind of give us insight about that in terms of your considerations?
Yeah, so we have many entry-level positions as well as many mid-level and even beyond that positions that would fall under those categories. So all the qualifications we discussed really are the same for both level of positions. In terms of the main difference would really just be in terms of number of years of experience. So there are many different opportunities, you know, at the associate level, manager level, and director level. Again, it just depends on the position, and there's really a lot of options there, though.
At the associate level, we tend to like 2 to 5 years level, or 2 to 5 years of experience. The manager level is typically 5 to 8 or 9 years, and the director level is 10 years of experience and above. And so the placement would be determined based on the level of experience and the skills that you could bring to that position.
Are there opportunities for leaders or professionals currently based in Africa, or can you elaborate on, do you have preferences, or do you have, in terms of location, where the candidates come from, or are you even seeking candidates on the continent, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a preference, but currently our entire staff is a mix of local staff in the countries that we operate in, as well as international staff from all over the world. I believe we have like 2,000 employees total, and about 1,800 of those are our local staff who are East African, and then the remaining 200 approximately are international. But we don't have a preference, and we really just look for the strongest candidates. We also encourage East Africans themselves to apply to all of our positions, and are working to have more East Africans in leadership roles within the organization as well. Yeah.
And this is more like an LDI Africa question. Once again, congratulations on the ranking. And with that status of being one of the best nonprofits in the world, can you just kind of get our candidates excited a little bit? Why did I even say that? Can you just kind of give our candidate what to expect should they have the opportunity to be placed at One Acre Fund from kind of a nonprofit leadership perspective?
Yeah, I think for somebody who would come in, what would be really great about working in our organization is not just the experience that you would get in the position, and Dania kind of explained what a typical project would look like and the skills, but also the growth opportunities and the ability to learn from your colleagues and learn from other professionals in kind of this social enterprise space. And so to build those professional skills, to build on project management skills, to build on kind of results-driven and analytical skills. And so coming into the position, knowing what you could bring, and then also what you want to grow and build into, and how our organization can help you achieve your own professional goals while you're kind of in the placement.
And I would also add on to that One Acre Fund, it's still a fairly young organization, but it's growing at a really rapid pace, and I think that is a testament to a reason why we've really been recognized in in many different arenas, because we've been able to have a model with proven impact, but we've been able to expand that throughout East Africa, so regionally, as well as expanding within the countries that we're already in. And we're also an organization that's constantly working to innovate, so there's a lot of opportunities to bring in new ideas, really increase the impact that we're having on farmers. So again, there's just a lot of opportunity because our organization is growing so fast.
And lastly, as nonprofits, we like to tell stories. So if there are any stories that come to mind in terms of fellow perspective, local farmers perspective, partnerships, working in the region, that you can just leave us with as we wrap up the webinar.
Yeah, I think one of the exciting things that we're doing, and you kind of highlighted it, is we've had this program that I described, this 4-part model program of providing seed and fertilizer on credit, distributing it, providing training, and helping with market optimization. But we're not satisfied with just operating a fairly successful model. We want to continuously improve and extend the reach of what we're doing. So we're doing a lot of work right now in partnering with governments, partnering with other banks and microfinance institutions, partnering with private sector actors to leverage the best practices we've learned and try to scale it faster. Because although we're reaching around 300,000 smallholder farmers across East Africa right now, that is just a tiny bit of the smallholder farmers across all of Africa. So we're doing trials and working with these partners to figure out how we can leverage what we've learned to address the needs of more farmers. And so that's a really great kind of employment and placement opportunity within our organization right now that's exciting and innovative and interesting and very entrepreneurial, so might fit with a lot of the backgrounds of interested candidates from LDI. And we're really excited about working with you and kind of bringing in new people to innovate on new ideas to help smallholder farmers across the world.
Great. With that being said, that brings us to the end of the webinar. Thank you, Jenny and Daniel, for the time for this webinar, and our global audience for being a part of this webinar. If you are located in the Washington, D.C. area, on the 22nd of April, we will be having our African Talent Series, which is also a series of informational events towards the program. You can follow us and stay tuned on social networks and newsletter to get updates on the fellowship program. Thank you, everyone, and this is where we sign out. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.